I love YouTube. I really do. It's like my free TV with no commercials.
See, mine has commercials all the way through it.
Yeah,
Which
not sure how I got around that.
I was saying my YouTube has all
Oh,
kinds of commercials.
mine does too. I mean, although I guess I've gotten used to them because I don't really pay much attention to them.
All
I only
right.
pay attention when they're in Spanish.
Oh, sorry, I'm running behind this morning.
We'll get you going.
Got jammed up, let me tell you. Okay. Hey, Griff, can you adjust the edges a little bit? I guess I can adjust my seat. My head doesn't have to be that big.
Oh, here's the graph.
How's your week?
Oh, it was okay. So far, I mean, oh God,
Go ahead and take it. I'm not in a hurry.
this is a good guy. Hey, Steve, I'm just starting to record a program for the weekend. It'll be probably a couple of hours. You want me to look at something? Yeah. Oh, wow. Forensic, I don't know. Yeah, autopsy. Oh my God. Send it to me. It'll be a couple of hours for me to record this, and then I'll take a look at it afterward and I'll shoot you a text. Sounds good. Thanks.
You reporting the
Just like I've
news?
been told. If you just learn how to say no.
Now, where would the fun be in that?
Right?
They're freeing Tina.
I know.
I'm so excited.
I am too. We had talked about it a lot on Friday,
Yesterday.
and then we talked about it a lot yesterday. There's a woman who has been really close to Tina. She went down and visited with her not over the weekend, on Saturday. So
Mhm.
we had her on talking about it, and everybody's arguing. Well, she shouldn't have had to have said she did something wrong and all this other crap. I'm like, you know what? First, you get her out from behind bars, and that's what they've done, and then you go from there.
Well, they haven't done it, right?
No, it'll be June 1st, my understanding.
Yeah. I'm just worried.
You know what? She is too. She said that the night after it was announced was the first night that she actually slept there since she had been there.
Wow.
But that she also told this woman who's on the program and stuff that, you know what? She's trying to not get too excited because she knows that things could fall apart again. So,
Hmm. Well, I hope she gets a book deal and sues the crap out of that judge.
yes. And the prosecutor and everybody else. I mean,
Yeah. And Jenna Griswold. Hate her. Sorry.
I
Dislike
hate
her
her. Oh my
intensely.
God. Hate, I mean,
Not
what
supposed to
is that
hate.
saying that they use all the time now? You don't hate them enough. Yeah, that's true. Probably not.
I watch videos from Robert Gouveia
Right.
and he calls her Crazy Eyes Griswold. Look at those eyes.
You know what? And she is just so full of crap.
She is.
And yet people do interviews with her and they just, They don't push back. It's just, well, whatever. Yeah, I guess she said this. It must be true. Because a lot of these people were saying that, Tina was trying to overturn the 2020 election and all this crap. And I played it a couple times the other day, but even Jared Polis said, no, it wasn't that election. There was it was the next year, there was a small little municipal election going on. She didn't try to change anything. She just wanted to preserve what the code was in a machine because she thought there might be an issue. And,
Yeah, because there were more votes than there were citizens, right?
yeah.
I didn't know it wasn't the 2020.
Well,
It
it's
doesn't matter.
and I know, right? And that's not your fault because everybody thinks it was because that's the narrative they kept pushing over and over and over and over again.
Really?
And, I was looking at, she did an interview. I mean, there was an interview with Jared Polis on CNN. And the woman who was doing the interview said that. And Jared Polis said, well, I need to correct you before we get going here. It wasn't the 2020 election. And I thought, you know what? That if there's ever any proof that these people get indoctrinated and they indoctrinate themselves, that would be a pretty good indication.
Yeah. Well, I hope she gets a book deal. I hope she takes down that judge and the state of Colorado for treating her that way, putting her in solitary confinement. I hope she becomes a multi millionaire, you know.
I do too. I mean, she went through hell and she should not have had to contend with any of it at all.
Yeah.
And the main thing that I took away from yesterday's program was that she's going to use that experience to reform some of our correctional facilities and
yeah.
change
Really?
some policies there. Yeah. She's like, people don't need to be treated this way, even if they're incarcerated.
Well,
They're
she's
still
like a
people.
political prisoner.
Yeah.
You know, it's more like third world kind of stuff. And I hope the state pays for that. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking.
You and me both. I mean,
Okay.
because she's old enough that, she's not going to get these years back.
Yeah. And how long was she incarcerated?
I think about 4 years from the time that she was arrested, because you can write off that time when you're just in the county jail or whatever. And then it wasn't that long down there in Pueblo, maybe about I don't know, I want to say a year or whatever. The sentence was 9 and he cut it in half. So that's 4.5. And she'll be getting out on June 1st. So based on that, I'd say probably, 4 years or something like that. I can't give you the exact number. There's so many aspects to that case.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm ready whenever you guys are ready.
All right.
I have one new topic today. The first one.
All right. I'll count us down. In 3, 2, 1. Hi, I'm Richard Randall, and welcome to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Colorado's Real Estate Authority, Barb Schlinker. Barb Schlinker is a retired Navy veteran. Barb is an author. Barb Schlinker is also a pilot, and Barb and her team enjoy all that Colorado and the Front Range have got to offer. Barb, always great to be talking with you. Now, we air Your Real Estate Voice every Saturday. If you can't listen to the entire show, always available on Barb's site, barbhasthebuyers.com, or search Barb. You'll find her on most of the podcast platforms like iHeartRadio. So, Barb, what's in store for today's show?
Well, Richard, couple new things today. The first one is about, let me say that over again. Couple new things I want to cover today. The first one is about how to get rich in real estate. It's basically our VIP investor program. So some people think, oh, the prices are too high to invest in real estate, but that's just not true. A lot of wealth is made in real estate, and it doesn't matter what the market is doing. So we'll discuss that and how to get really good buys. And then the next topic is about how do home buyers that have a house to sell, how can they buy their next home first without selling their current home and making that transition much more smoothly. The third topic is about negotiations. So my agents love talking about this. This is something we work with week in, week out, where we get offers many times, multiple offers. And we have a couple different strategies on how to help the seller win. But I'm also going to talk about the buyer side because it's kind of shocking to me. And maybe you can try to explain this to me, Richard, but even when home buyers are aware they have other offers, they still don't make their best offer. Does that make sense to you?
No, it doesn't make sense to me. There's so much about this business that thankfully I get to talk with you and find out what's going on because there's so many things that just honestly do not make sense. But when you explain it, then you understand not that it makes sense, but why people would be misguided, I guess.
Yeah. And then the last but not least, we're going to talk about how to sell your home without showing nightmares. Now, why am I even bringing this topic up? It really has to do with in the state of Colorado, it's 1 month of school to be a real estate agent. There is no job description, there's no qualification, there's no training on how to show homes. And a lot of agents just assume there's this built-in entitlement to show when they want and how they want. And it doesn't work that way. But I've had too many problems with showings where, in my view, the agents and or the buyers really are not respecting the seller and their property. So we'll talk about how you can avoid those nightmares and give you some fun stories. And as always, I love talking about my hot new listings. Richard?
So, Barb, in this market, the interest rates are staying the same. And even though it's prime selling season, some people are looking to buy real estate either to invest for the long term or fix and flip homes. Tell us about your VIP investor program and how our listeners can get rich in real estate.
Well, Richard, I've, over the years, I've worked with many people that were really smart in that they bought a piece of real estate, they kept it as a rental. Over time, it more than doubled in value. And then when they're tired of dealing with tenants or they just need to use the money for something else, they sell it and they're sitting on a really strong equity position. And you're kind of leveraging the value to grow, just like having a big stock market portfolio over time. The bigger the portfolio, the more it could go up in value. And regardless of what the market is doing, it's always a good time to invest, depending on your strategy. There are still some really great deals out there. There are still some really motivated sellers out there that just need to get out of the trap. And that might be a good opportunity for you to be able to swoop in and buy that home and either use it as a rental or fix it up, resell, and flip it. In general, real estate values double every 10 years. And I wasn't sure if I believed that general phrase. That's not always the case 100%, but I know in our case with our home, that's pretty much true. It's practically doubled, if not more, within 20 years. But I look back on that and I go, wow, if you think about it, I should have kept some of those homes that I bought as investments 20 years ago because they probably would have more than doubled. But let's talk about how people actually get rich in real estate. So most folks that actually do the strategy of buy and hold do very well if you can plan for and manage expectations about tenant behavior in the home. Now, we've heard tons of horror stories. I know that the tenant laws in the state have gotten a lot stricter and more favorable for the tenant, not the landlord. But even with that, you can still do very, very well. And I know a lot of folks that like to fix and flip. I probably get a text every other day from those would-be investors that are looking for, to buy a home half of what it's worth. And those don't come up very often. If they do, there's a dog pile of buyers that jump on them and make it unaffordable for the traditional flipper. But the really smart buyers that are actually owner occupant buyers can do very well. And what I'm seeing is a lot more and more buyers are buying homes that need work. They intend to occupy, they're going to use renovation loans to fix them up. So they use other people's money to repair them. And then they're sitting on a nice equity position. Plus, they can make it the way they want it and maybe turn that home into a rental. For a lot of first-time home buyers, it's a great way to get into real estate without spending a lot of money. Our company has a great contract with some homes that have been taken back in foreclosure, and many times they represent fabulous deals. We have more than a couple of dozen of those properties, and they have problems. You know, they might have cosmetic issues. Like I had one listing where the plumbing was fractured. There were a couple of broken windows. Somebody took pink latex paint and just splashed it on the walls and on the stair rails and stuff like that. But you know what? That home was priced right and it sold at a bidding more. And the buyer for that home loved the floor plan, so that's a perfect layout for my family, was able to finance into his loan the repairs. So we got a great buy on a home that was actually worth a lot more, and he can customize it the way he wants it. Now, why should you invest in buy and hold real estate? Well, first of all, if you buy it for the purpose of renting, you can rent it out and actually get someone else to pay the debt service or the mortgage on the property. So over time, the mortgage balance goes down and the home value goes up. Plus, you get a tax deduction. So there's a lot of really good reasons to do it. And I see a lot of multifamily properties that go on the market. It's another way to do it. If you can find a buy, what do you call it, a duplex or a fourplex, and live in one of the units for a while, that's a fabulous way to invest in real estate. And a lot of times you can get owner occupant financing on those kind of properties, and they give you credit for what the rent would be on the other units. But when you make a decision about which home you're going to buy, location is important, even with deciding on who the renter is going to be, because some areas command more rent than others, and they have more demand than others. Just like any other real estate transaction, location is important. Also, financing is important. So when I look at investment properties, my first thought is, okay, for me to go out and buy a traditional rental, I would have to have 25% down for a buy and hold deal. That's what my lender tells me. So that's a good chunk of money. Where am I going to get that money? Well, you can get that money from the home equity that you've already built in the home. So again, you're using other people's money to invest in real estate. So is it a good time to buy? The interest rates, you know, kind of in the low to mid sixes. They've been hovering the same for the last couple of years. However, if you look over the long term, and I've been doing this for 30 years now, I remember when I first got into real estate, the mortgage rates were hovering around 8.5%, 9%. And actually it was a little bit higher than that. And you had to buy on an adjustable rate to get the rate down, or do some other creative financing. I know the prices were less, but the rates were higher. And when the rates dropped down to 7%, I remember watching my broker do the happy dance saying, oh my God, they haven't been this low in so many years, not since the 50s and 60s. And now we're below that. So yeah, the prices are higher, but the rates are relatively low. And if they drop lower, which a lot of people think that's going to happen with the new Fed, you could always refinance. So really, the best time to buy and the best time to sell is not really about the market. It's about your plan and what you intend to do. So what are the pros and cons of rentals? So single family home, I like single family homes personally, but not everybody does. Some people like townhomes. The reason why they would want a townhome is so they don't have to take care of the outside. My experience has been the tenants don't behave as much in taking care of landscaping like you would. So that's a con of owning a single family home. And with a townhome, you don't have to do that. But the downside with a townhome is there's a bit of uncertainty about where the HOA dues are going. What we've seen in the past couple of years is HOA dues have almost doubled, mostly because of homeowner insurance expenses of the attached buildings. So how long does it take to buy a house? Typically a month. It could be sooner. So that's one thing. And then how much do you need? Well, it kind of depends on what kind of financing. You could pull home equity to get your down payment. If you plan to flip a house, if you get a deal as low as that, you could spend as little as 11% in order to buy a fix and flip property. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show. And we're talking about how to get rich in real estate. And when we come back, we're going to talk about our new VIP investor program and how to find the best buys. Richard?
We're here talking with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can reach Barb at 719-301-3900. Now, Barb, we're talking about the top 10 things that sellers want to know before they list their home for sale. So how do home sellers get their home sale to the finish line?
Can you change that question? Sorry, I don't know what I did with the script, but it should be, how do investors find the best homes?
All right. 3, 2, 1. We're here talking with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can reach Barb at 719-301-3900. And Barb, how is the best way for investors to find that home that they'd like to work on?
Well, that's the dilemma. So some investors get real estate agents out there looking for them. Some send direct mail and look for really desperate sellers. But what we do is we provide our buyers with what we call insider access to off-market properties, insider access to bank foreclosures, and then they get insider access to motivated sellers on our cash offer platform. Some of these sellers don't want to go on the traditional market, but they do want to sell. So it gives you the edge as a VIP buyer with us. And then when it's time to negotiate, you have to take a lot of things into account. If it's an open market property, you may be up against competition. But one of the things that we do is we put together this very special offer package that helps you win against other deals. So if you are interested in insider access, let us know. It's very hard for us to just share those on our website because the MLS has a really dumb rule that says within 24 hours of signing the agreement, you must put the property on the multiple listing service. Otherwise, you cannot advertise it anywhere online. That's their dumb rule. But there are some people that don't want to play that game. So we can do off-market sales, and we're happy to share that with our clients if you become our VIP investor buyer. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker. This is Your Real Estate Voice. Barb is the host of the program, and she is the owner-proprietor of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can reach Barb at 719-301-3900. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about how homeowners are buying their next home before selling their current home. Don't miss that. There we go. One down.
On down. It's the first time I've done that subject. Did you like it?
I did, yeah, I did. And actually, David was saying something about the new Fed, and I'm like, well, you know, I wasn't sure if we should mention it or not. And then boom, you mentioned it. So he was right. You were right. I was probably wrong. All right. Let's see. I'm good to go here, David. All right.
Say the whole thing instead of just part.
Yeah, you got it. Let me know.
We're good.
All right, we'll count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the host of the program and the owner-broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, a lot of people who want to move up to that next luxury home, they've got a dilemma, a house to sell. What are some ways that people can do that without risking of having to wait for their homes to sell first in order to get the second one?
Well, it's one of the biggest fears most home buyers have. They have a house to sell. They know they have equity in the home. They want to use that equity for their down payment, and they need to make that transition from A to B. So I just met with a home seller yesterday that they were in that situation where they had already contracted for their new house. They had actually accepted an offer contingent on the close of a home. Their buyer was actually also selling a home to buy their home, and the whole thing blew up. So they were kind of stuck. They had to buy the house that they were buying, and they ended up renting out the house that they were hoping to sell. And so it creates a lot of problems if you don't have a nice, clean solution. So one of the biggest fears that homeowners have when they move up or down to another property is what happens if I sell my home too fast, or what happens if my home doesn't sell fast enough, or the contract blows up. And or another thing that they worry about is, what if I see the perfect home go on and off the market and I don't get a chance to bid on it because I haven't sold my house yet? So that's a big problem. Timing the market, picking the best home, it's a really difficult problem to solve, but we have some great solutions. So most people just try to time the market. They'll go and ask the seller, hey, will you reserve your home for me so that, I can sell my home first, and then everything should go through just fine. But it doesn't always work that way. In fact, sometimes when you try to stack up closing dates and moving dates and all that, it can get very complicated, and worse yet, very stressful. So why is it so difficult? Maybe your house sells too fast. Maybe you haven't found the next home. I have a lot of people concerned that I might sell their home too quickly. What happens if the closing dates don't line up? All these things can really present a lot of problems with that transition. I've seen home sellers move into apartments waiting for their next house because their home sold too quickly, and now their new house isn't ready. Nobody likes doing two moves. That is a lot of extra work and stress and expense. So it's always better to try to make that transition all at once. So we have some really great buy before you sell programs. We actually have 6 of them available through our cash offer platform and some of our proprietary lenders that have these great options. So the lenders actually have a big old bucket of cash, and they call it their private portfolio, where they can go out and buy your next home for cash. That makes you a highly desirable cash buyer when you purchase your home, and then you sell your current home. And you have time to sell your current home. So it doesn't create this big drama freak out thing. So the advantages of doing that is that there's no rushed decisions. You can buy your next home with leisure, with confidence. There's no temporary housing. There's no double moves. You have more time to prepare your current home for sale, and it allows you to make that transition with really very little expense and a lot less stress, for sure. Now, of course, there are other options of bridge loans. I have a client doing that where this client got a home equity line of credit on her paid for house and is using that money to buy her next home, but she doesn't want to pay interest on it, right? So it means it adds expenses to her world. So that's an option. You can get a bridge loan, but these lenders that we recommend really can do something that's spectacular and make it very low cost and make it happen quickly. So if you're thinking about making a move like that, give us a call. We work with a lot of different resources that can help you make that transition from one house to another. I recently had a home seller that had me put his house on the market. However, he went under contract for his brand new home in another state first. But the problem was, if he got a bridge loan, having to make that transition from paying for the bridge loan, his retirement income hadn't kicked in yet, and qualifying for the new loan, he was kind of financially in a box. So I was able to pull out of my Batwoman tool belt one of the buy before you sell programs. He could pull his equity out of his home, go ahead and buy his next home, even though he got a small loan. He qualified for the small loan without any problem, and then sell his current home. And actually, we sold his current home in just 1 week. So he told me, he's like, I didn't expect you to sell it that fast. And I said, sorry, but that's what I do. It's what you hire me to do. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And we're talking about how do homeowners buy their next home first before selling their current home and have very low expenses and have the process go very smoothly. Next up, we're going to talk about some more buy before you sell programs that will alleviate having that pressure to sell and the pressure to have buyer number one go through and your sale go through. And it's just way too stressed to do it the way most traditional real estate agents suggest. So my name is Barb Schlinker. If you'd like to find out about our buy before you sell programs, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can listen to replays of the show anytime. You'll find it on all of the major podcast platforms, plus Barb's YouTube channel as well, Barb Schlinker. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb Schlinker at 719-301-3900. Barb, what are some other ways that homeowners who want to buy their next luxury home are purchasing before they sell?
Well, Richard, I think there's a lot of options. We have cash offer programs, which are really cool, which basically they come in and buy your house, right? So your home is sold without going on the open market, but you still get to take advantage of all that equity. So what they do is their program gives you full market value up front. And then they hold back a little bit of that equity, then they resell it. And when it's resold, then you actually get the rest of your equity. So it's a way to do it, especially for home sellers that have work that needs to be done. It's a really good option for them that they don't have to manage the rehab. They just let it go, let the investor do it, but they still get the full benefit of the market value. So that's one strategy of very many that we have. We actually have dozens and dozens of high net worth cash buyers on our cash offer platform. And we can find a solution for pretty much anybody that's interested in making that transition and they don't want to go on the open market. We also guarantee that we're going to bring you offers at 100% of market value, or we'll pay you the difference. We have a guaranteed price. We have a guaranteed sale. We have guaranteed offers. No other real estate brokerage offers these kind of things. And we have 6 different buy before you sell programs. These are actually the most reasonable programs out of the group. And I will tell you that for me, if I was making that transition right now, this is what I would do. I would use that program. I would take my time selling my home. It would allow me to move into my new home before my home sells, make my current home look great so I can maximize the value. And then when my home is sold, then we take that equity, we get the new loan on the new house, and it's very seamless and pretty low cost in my view. Plus, it eliminates the timing problems, like people with dogs and 4-legged creatures and, kids. Sometimes dealing with showings and stuff like that can be really difficult, very frustrating, and a little bit nerve-wracking, because every time an agent requests a showing, oh my God, red alert, you got to make the house look good. You got to get the critters, you got to get the kids, get them out on time, and hope the agent shows up. Hope the agent is showing a buyer that can buy. By the way, the state doesn't require that the agent verify the buyer can buy before they show, which to me is just shocking. Isn't that crazy, Richard?
That is, I would not believe it if it weren't coming out of your mouth.
Well, I see it all the time. I'll find out sometimes after we're under contract that the buyer couldn't buy. I hate that part. So that's why I keep marketing until the end. But when you do programs like this, you don't have the pressure of selling your current home. You can actually, basically tag your next home, get it ready, get it going, close on it, move into it if you want to, and then sell your current home with ease. These are really slick programs. And what most real estate agents offer is, oh, well, this is how you do it. You put your house on the market, you get it under contract. That's their best case. And then you go make an offer to the seller of the home that you want to buy, contingent on your home closing, which may or may not work. It could be your buyer falls out, that contracts fall out, probably one or two out of 10 right now. And the other issue is that what if you don't have a contract on your house yet? I actually talked to a seller recently that told me they made a contingent offer. They were getting offers on their home, but they weren't accepting them. So I see all kinds of problems with the traditional process, and it really makes it more stressful, not fun, more. Here goes my voice. Hang on a second. So the traditional process really makes the process more stressful, not fun, more chaotic, and more uncertain. Sellers want certainty. So if you are thinking of making a move and you'd like to find out about our buy before you sell programs, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
This is one of many reasons that I recommend you, a trusted Navy veteran, when I'm thinking of buying or selling a home or recommending to other people. I'm Richard Randall, and you're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker. She should be your real estate voice. She's the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, host of the program, and you can reach her at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing how to negotiate a real estate deal and win, win, win. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
That was not a question. Will you stay tuned for that? That was stay tuned for that. Actually, he'll edit that out. He had to step across the hall real quickly. I'm going to go get some water. I've got a tickle in my throat as well.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm going to try something else like Coke. That's my Red Bull. Good. Oh, I didn't know that. I just don't either. Either. Just keep it on. I did get a lead. My friend Kathleen, she's one just park benches and speaks Medicare. She's every literally she's between maybe not so much she could compete with people and get your face out there. But yeah, she's long. Good for her. She gives out cash fees. She goes to every single fair. She's insurance back. She said one of her coworkers, Lori, wants to refinance her. She said she needs something. I don't know if she's buying or selling, but Kathleen's got to go to Germany and get some stuff for the family. So I called her. She just wants to refinance. So but I have my mortgage broker license. She's going to sell in here, and I've only know her. So she was really. I work with a lot of seniors. That's who's on this radio station. They're conservative, usually over age. So they have housing, but they also need health insurance because that stuff just goes over my head. And I don't do anything there. I should, but I don't have time. Oh, I should have been singing this morning. Hmm.
All right. I've got some water too.
I got Coke. I got water. It's not working. That's
all
right.
Let us know, David.
I'm ready.
Count us down. You good, Barb?
Yep.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She's the host of the program, and this is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, we're heading into the spring selling season. You're out there selling homes all of the time. What are you seeing in the market about negotiations, and how can you help our listeners score a big win when it comes to real estate?
Well, Richard, a lot of people think that they're going to be negotiating in a vacuum, meaning it's just the one buyer against the one seller. And that's not always the case. A lot of times, at least a lot of my listings have multiple offers at once, which very fun for me is not so fun for the buyer. But for home sellers, it starts with pricing. If the home is priced, what I call very realistically, maybe another word for that might be very competitively, then the likelihood of them getting multiple offers is actually very high. There is a pent-up demand of buyers out there looking for the best home for the best price in their criteria. So I believe the buyers are on it. They're watching all the tech company sites like Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, just waiting for the right one to hit the market. But for buyers, it really means that they get fully pre-approved. Like I had somebody this morning trying to pick my brain about a future foreclosed home. What was the price? Which I don't know the price yet. They haven't decided, but I have to put my sign up. They have their rules are you got to at this point, you need to get the sign up. So the sign was there. That's why she called. But I wasn't too happy that she didn't she didn't tell me the truth that she was working with an agent. At first she said, "Oh, I'm not really working with anybody." I said, "Okay, well, did you get your financing?" "No, I'm not ready to do that." And so I am not going to give them insider access or privileged information, really, if they won't work with us, and if they won't cooperate with the process. Like, I am not an overpaid door opener. I am not a door opener at all. But I will work with clients and buyers if they are willing to follow the process, especially when it comes to buyers and getting their finances in order. I mean, think about it, Richard. Would you want your house shown to some buyer that can't buy a couch on Craigslist?
I don't want strangers in my home under any circumstance. And just because they say they'd like to buy the home, but they have no opportunity or ability to do that, I'm sorry, but you don't get to make this a parade of homes when you can't afford to buy one.
Yeah, and I think a lot of buyers assume that the process is, oh, I go look and then I figure out how I can buy it. And it might work that way with cars, but not so much with houses, and we're not going to spend our time opening a door just to show that the buyer can purchase or that let me say that again. We're not going to spend our time opening a door just because they ask. There are some real estate agents that will do that. And it's unfortunate. And they're just hoping, they're living on this, what I call hopium, that, oh, if I just Pop-Tart out of my office and go over and show the house, and then, maybe the buyer can buy, and maybe the buyer wants to buy a house like that, and maybe I'll earn a commission. And to me, that's the worst way to do business. We actually tested this. We did the Pop-Tart agent thing, and we get this demand. Oh, I want to go show this house. Oh, okay, we'll meet you there. Everything's all good, without making sure the buyer could buy, without making sure we knew what the buyer was actually looking for, because we have other properties that might fit their criteria as well. And we would love to acquire them as a client, but that's not the way to do it. We tested, we tracked. None of those buyers bought a house with us. So for us, that doesn't work. But sometimes it's a way to meet a buyer and go to the next level. But I don't prefer to work that way. That's just not how I work. Other agents do that, but I think if you're a home seller and that's going on, that just any random person is asking to show your house and they don't know if they can buy, most sellers say, "Oh no, I want a pre-qualified, pre-approved buyer look at my home. Otherwise, not." And it's really hard to put the brakes on the 55,000 agents out there. So price is only one piece of the deal, but it's the most important factor to get the buyers to want to come see it. It overrides all marketing, so it's absolutely critical. But many people think that real estate agents are only about price, but there's a lot of factors into it. It could be, when does the buyer want to close? I remember last year I had a request where the agent said, "Well, we'll pay this price if you close in a week." And it was a big, massive 4,000 square foot house that they were expecting the seller to get out in a week without, excuse me, without an executed contract. And anyway, it was a very unreasonable request and not realistic. And just because a buyer is cash doesn't make them any better than a buyer getting financing. The only benefit to the seller is that we don't have to worry about loan approval and we don't have to worry about appraisal. Those two things are taken off the table, but that doesn't mean that necessarily that the cash buyer is going to get a better deal just because of that. There are other things that factor into it. Closing cost. We have more and more buyers asking the seller to pay their own closing cost. Or some buyers go, "Okay, I want the house, but can I have a free refrigerator and a free washer and dryer and a free snowblower and fries with that too?" Okay, it's going a little too far. You're buying the building, you're not buying the personal stuff. So some agents think it's their job just to get their buyer's stuff throughout the entire transaction. And it becomes frustrating. I'm negotiating one right now where the buyer is demanding that the refrigerator ice maker doesn't work and it needs to be fixed. And the answer is no. We'll give you a home warranty that will cover it, but we're not going to fix the ice maker on the refrigerator. So there are times that a seller may accept a lower offer based on the way the offer is presented, or based on maybe the timing of the transaction. So it's really important for home sellers when they are negotiating to factor everything into the game. And generally, if you're a buyer and you're making your best offer, you're more likely to win than if you don't. And this is something that really frustrates me, is that I'll have a listing that has 3 or 4 or 5 different offers. Everybody knows there's multiple offers, yet they don't make their best offer. I had one buyer of another agent get really mad at me because they didn't win the house, but they didn't make their best offer. And then they trashed me online saying, I would have paid $50,000 more. And it's like, what? You know, you didn't make that offer. I have a copy of it. I keep all the documentation, by the way, so I won't let that kind of stuff happen. But at the end of the day, if you know you're up against competition, why are you hedging your bet? Recently, I had several offers. Everybody knew there were several offers, but in both cases, the buyers did not make their best offer. It wasn't until I played mom against dad and really was able to leverage the price up to where it should be. And it is still a competitive market if the home is priced right and if it's in good condition, all the stars align. It is a competitive market, and you have to be prepared to make your best offer if you want to get the house. I'm pretty shocked that buyers actually don't do it. And some of it has to do with what the real estate agents are saying. They'll say stuff like, oh, you know, it's not worth that much. The comps don't support the value. And that's crazy. And at least not with my listings, where it's going to be worth that much. Or sometimes they think that the way they articulate their value is to try to save the seller money, or save the buyer money by using techniques like escalation clauses. We'll say, well, our offer is only this, but we're willing to pay more if you can show me another offer that's more. And so if we have to show the other offer, they factor everything into it, including buyer agent commission. So it's always best to make your best offer. What is that? And this is what I tell buyers. What is that number at which you're willing to offer this house? And if somebody goes above it, you're okay with them getting the house, right? That's what I tell them. And usually that's where it works out quite well. Another thing is important is pricing, of course. It has the weight of everything, because pricing overcomes marketing, pricing overcomes condition. Pricing it right is the way you win, and the way you have multiple offers, which actually puts you in the best position. If you price it too high and you say stuff like, I'm not in a hurry, don't worry, we'll just wait and see and lower the price later, it really hurts you in the long run. According to the National Association of Realtors, if you price too high and slowly walk the price down, you're going to net less money. Plus, it triggers buyer resistance. It causes the buyers to play wait and see. It leads to price reductions, and you get less money. I had a listing up in Woodland Park where we had several offers, and the agent was so determined to try to get this buyer a lower price, and he kept coming back with a new offer and a new offer and a new offer. In the meantime, here comes a nice little cash buyer that made a better offer. Oops, so sorry, your buyer didn't get the house. So I don't know why they do that. And they're thinking that they're negotiating in a bubble, and that's just not the case many times if the home is a good buy. This back and forth could cause Murphy's Law to happen, where some other buyer drops in there with a better offer and you don't get that house. So you really want to make sure you hire somebody with lots of experience that knows how to do this, especially when you're selling one of your largest assets. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And we're talking about how to negotiate and win either for buyers or sellers. And next up, we're going to cover some things that you could expect to see in this market and what you can do to win in negotiations. Richard?
Barb, we're discussing how to negotiate a real estate deal and win in this market. The first thing to do is to call you to work on negotiations. The number is 719-301-3900. But let's talk about that business of negotiating a real estate deal, winning in this market. They don't teach that in real estate school.
Well, you know, Richard, they don't teach negotiations. They don't teach pricing. They basically teach you how to fill out the forms that the state provides you, and then you're on your own to figure out the rest. It's only 1 month of school to be a real estate agent. And then they're like, go, get me some of that commission. That's how I was treated. Really hasn't changed a whole lot. There are a few companies that have training, but at the end of the day, this kind of thing, they don't have as many, because according to Zillow, 72% of agents sold 0 homes last year, which is pathetic. But I'm not blaming the agents. I'm blaming the industry for not teaching them on how to get and grow their business. So one way you can be in a position to have the benefit of multiple offers is avoid pricing too high. I know it seems very counterintuitive to do that, but that is the best way to get a whole bunch of buyers to go, oh my gosh, that's the best deal. I'm going to make my best offer. Do you have other offers? When are you presenting offers? That's the stuff that I deal with week in, week out, helping my home sellers get the most money. If you do price it to sell, you get the most eyes on the home in the first 7 to 14 days. That is when it needs to be priced right. For buyers, it creates urgency and momentum. It attracts serious and qualified buyers, and it increases the chance of you getting multiple offers. And then when you get them, you have to decide which one is the best offer for you. And that's fun for me. That's why you want a professional on your side, taking a look at these offers, making sure these buyers can buy, and making sure it's the best one that works for you. And if they have a house to sell, it could be a problem. We can solve their problem. We can help that buyer buy your home with our buy before you sell programs. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900. There's all kinds of factors that come into the negotiations, including price, requests for seller paid closing costs, personal property included, and now commission is a part of it. And a lot of sellers are going, why do I have to pay the buyer's agent commission? And so, you know, it's a good question, and we have to help them decide on which offer is the best one for them. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. When we come back, we'll be discussing how to sell your home without those showing nightmares. Plus, we'll have Barb's hot new listings. Don't miss that.
Oh, I ran long on that one. I didn't even get to all of it.
Oh my God, we would have been here until the cows came home, and I don't even know where the cows are at. But
I
yeah,
know.
there was a lot.
They're in Yoder.
There was a lot there. That's for sure. You do a pretty good cow over there, David.
I don't know if she heard me.
You hear that, Barb?
He does do a good cow.
Right?
Impressive.
He is impressive in so many levels, right?
I didn't know you had that kind of talent. Do you do imitations too?
Here and there. They're mostly older ones, like Scooby-Doo and stuff.
Scooby-Doo. Cool.
All right. I've got 4. David's ready. You ready, Barb?
Ready.
Count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and it educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the host of the program and the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, most home sellers believe they should leave for showings. How can home sellers show their homes, sell, and keep full control over the entire process?
Well, Richard, I've been doing this a long time, and I got involved with a group that is some of the top agents in the country, and we share our best training with each other. So I was probably 10 years in before I was trained on how to show a home. There's no training on how to show a home. That's why I say some agents, act like overpaid door openers. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're saying. Sometimes they don't respect the seller's property. And we just don't play that way. First of all, we want to make sure the buyer can buy, but the state does not require that the buyer can buy, right? They don't require the agent to know that. So imagine having somebody getting your house all ready to show, and then somebody opens the door and lets a buyer in, and then you find out later, oh, they're still working on their pre-qualification, or oh, they didn't want that kind of floor plan. Well, they never asked. So I think there's a lot of issues, but there's no rules around it. So agents feel this strange sense of entitlement that when a house goes on the market, the house should be available to show whenever they want to show. And so if you hear that from a real estate agent as a seller, my answer would be, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to set up the property to show when it works for me, because you can't just drop everything. Like if you're cooking dinner and all of a sudden someone's like, oh my God, I want to show your house. Yeah, you don't realize that probably that agent got that lead from Zillow. They don't know if they can buy a couch in Craigslist, and they are pop-tarting out of their office to show up at the home and hope and pray that maybe this buy can buy. So don't make it inconvenient for you. That's no fun. It's very stressful too. So I suggest to sellers that we narrow the window and make it work for you. There are times when the seller is not ready to show. We might be on the market, but we're restricting showings either for they've got repairs that they're doing or stuff like that. And just a few weeks ago, I had some buyer who saw it online go over and stalk the seller, catch them outside, go pick their brain, try to make friends, and try to get that house actually before they were able to get in and see it. The other thing that agents will tell you to do is you should leave for the showing, because my buyers aren't comfortable. I'm like, well, it's their house. You can't tell them to leave their own home. It is kind of customary. Okay. If you have to stay in your home, it's all right. I would recommend that you just, let them in, and then just don't hover over them. Say, hey, I'll be in the garage if you have any questions. I'll step out of your way, whatever. And don't walk around and do a Vanna White. That's not a good idea, because the agent doesn't like it. Some buyers don't like it. What the agent wants to do is to be able to talk frankly with the buyer about the house. They should be getting feedback as to whether or not the buyer likes a house like that. But if you're in front of a seller, they can't give any feedback about what they think, right? So that's the issue, is they want to stand there and give their feedback, positive or negative. Same thing on inspections. I see more and more of the inspectors and agents asking the seller to leave their own home during a 3-hour inspection. Just last weekend, I have a vacant property, and the agent texted me and said, oh, something came up. I can't make the inspection. Can't you let the unlicensed, unqualified inspector in your listing for 3 hours unescorted? Give out the combo. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. It invalidates my insurance. If you don't have somebody on your team that can be there for the inspection, then you need to reschedule. And oh, okay, I got it covered. So there are probably agents that will allow it to happen. I won't. And the other issue is, sometimes the inspectors influence the buyers away from the home over condition issues that might really not be an issue. like they come in with the mold wand and make stuff up. It's just crazy town what goes on in real estate. It's kind of wild. So don't make your home available 24/7. Many times the real estate agent that might be meeting that buyer has never met the buyer. They haven't vetted the buyer. They are just using that showing opportunity to maybe earn a commission. So what would the sellers say if they knew that agent showing appointments were for maybe buyers? What do you think, Richard, about that?
I think they would be curious and probably a little bit upset about that. I would recommend they call you.
Yeah, I mean, there are some agents that do work for months and years or whatever with a buyer and can't get them into a house. I understand that. That happens too, but a majority of them are just opening a door. The other issue I have is that sometimes the agents don't read the showing instructions. I can't get them to read one paragraph on their cell phone about the property. I had one last year that had structural issues. And the MLS would not allow me to put the condition of the home in the publicly facing paragraph. That's why I have alternative ways of marketing, because their rules are just crazy. So I put it in the private remarks. I also put it in the showing instructions. This has structural problems, offered as is, call for details. They didn't even read it. So they get to the house with the buyer. The buyer's not happy because they're surprised over the condition. And then the agent throws me under the bus and says, well, Barb should have told me. And I'm like, I did. You just had to go click and read it. So that's a problem. So I have to plan for all of that the way I present the home. So basically, the way it works now is Realtor.com, Homes.com, Zillow. They have become billion-dollar companies by basically improving on the MLS systems. There are probably 1,500 different MLS, which is basically a database of homes for sale. And they're very local yokel. There's probably 15 or 20 in the state of Colorado. There's probably 1,500 in the country. They're all different software and they don't talk to each other, right? But they do all merge up to Realtor.com and Zillow and Homes.com, and they get transformed on their website for a better product. And that's where most of the buyers are going. So what I do, I market to the buyers. But 99% of them search on those tech companies, assuming that is the actual real MLS, which it's not. 81% of agents sell 3 or less homes a year. That's extraordinary. According to Zillow, 72% did not sell any. So these agents desperate for a sale sometimes will jump out of their office and go show a house without any verification, any vetting, just to hope to maybe get a deal. The other thing that's important to know is basically when you're showing a house, are they going to be tactful and respectful of the property? Not so much. These days, when you're in a home, you have to pretty much expect that you're going to be on camera, right? A lot of people have cameras inside and out. So the sellers will say, hey, how come the agent is saying it's not worth that much? Or how come the agent is saying it won't qualify for that financing? How come the agent is telling the buyer that they could put an AC in when they're standing right next to the AC compressor? Plus, the agents don't leave cards. I've had sellers complain to me about doors unlocked, lights on, doors wide open, combo left in the box, combo box wide open where anybody could just open the door. And that happens all the time. And the worst part is when they use the restrooms and don't flush, when they leave junk. I had recently in January, I had somebody on brand new carpet carry in one of those pizza slice box because they couldn't wait 10 minutes to eat their pizza and just threw it on the brand new carpet. Who does that? Did your mama teach you that? I mean, it's unbelievable the stuff that takes place. And I don't know if the agents don't have the courage to say, hey, pick that up, or yes, you can use the restroom, but just make sure, it's clean, or go check, don't leave the house like that. It's just crazy. Agents also sometimes are the ones that encourage the sellers or encourage their buyers to send lowball offers. right? And I'll ask the agents, how'd you come up with that price? Well, the comps, as if they really know market value. And I think they're encouraging the buyer to make a lowball offer in hopes of getting that home, but it doesn't necessarily mean the seller's going to buy on it. As far as showing appointments, sometimes they're late, sometimes they're early, sometimes they don't show up at all and they fail to cancel. And they don't have formal training on this. They don't know what to do and what to say. So the one thing that drives me probably the most crazy is you've got this buyer that loves the house. I call it the love word. If they're happy with the house, why are these agents going out and showing them more houses after that? Or why are these agents getting a contract and then turning around and keep showing houses? First of all, I think that's very unethical to do that latter part. Second of all, if the buyer says they love it, then stop, go back to the office and try to get them under contract. That's your job. It's not your job to go show them every house available. It's just some of the stuff I see. They're not trained. So my name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show. And we're talking about how to avoid showing nightmares. You've heard about all the nightmares. Now we're going to talk about ways to make the process smooth and easy for you. If you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can reach her at 719-301-3900. And we're talking, Barb, about moving. Tell us a little bit more about moving, buying, negotiating, and all of the rest.
That question should be, how do sellers avoid showing nightmares? Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you said we were done with that. Nope, let me go back and I'll just do it the way it's written. 3, 2, 1. You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can reach her at 719-301-3900. And we're talking, Barb, about moving. What are some agents showing nightmares and what can home sellers do about them?
Well, first of all, lock up your valuables, take them out of the house, put them somewhere where they can't reach them. We don't have too many problems with theft, but just don't open the door. Also, first impressions are very important. So we help our clients get ready for that, but you want to make sure your house is show ready. Also, plan on having cameras. I think it's a really good idea. I had one home seller where during the inspection, the buyer ordered pizza. And the seller freaked out. They thought they were squatting in their house because the pizza girl showed up and not with just one pizza, but like 4 pizzas and a bag of wings. So you never know what's going to happen. And then also you want to make sure you hire the right agent that can help you avoid these problems. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
So before we go, the number for Barb is 719-301-3900. Visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Before we go, you've got some hot new listings coming up. Tell us about them, Barb Schlinker.
I do. I have a fabulous home up in Crystal Park, just under $1 million, beautiful with an RV garage, almost new home, and just gorgeous setting, gorgeous views. Another really good buy, condo on Lexington Village. This condo is over 1,600 square feet. Fabulous home in South Pueblo on 62 acres in the 5s. We also have a beautiful patio home on Quartzsite Place in the mid-4s. Another fabulous single-family rancher, great for downsizers or first-time home buyers in the 4s. Another fabulous home in the northeast part of town on Cortina, over 3,400 square feet, fresh carpet, move-in ready, beautiful. Another great condo on Sonata in the northeast part of town, under 200,000 with reasonable dues. Really, really good for somebody that wants to downsize but not have to go to senior care. Or we actually, at the open house, we had a first-time home buyer there, which would be a perfect first-time home buyer house. Fabulous place down in Fountain, close to Fort Carson on Elk River View in the low 3s. Another Crystal Park beautiful home on Sugarloaf Road in the mid-8s. A great house on Mead Avenue, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1-car in the low 3s. Fabulous home on Balsam Street in the low 5s. Home on Gold King is offering a VA assumable loan in the mid 3s. A fabulous home on 5 acres on Warriors Path in the low 6s. And then I have 2 really gorgeous luxury homes. One is a hobby farm on 80 acres on Judge Orr Road with a beautiful custom house, plus auxiliary dwelling unit, plus 11-car garage space at 1.39 million. And another beautiful house up in Florissant, 35 acres with a shop, with an auxiliary apartment, priced at 2.15 million. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900. We always have new properties coming up on barbhasthebuyers.com. Click on feature properties. Richard?
You've been listening to Your Real Estate Voice. It airs every Saturday. If you're thinking of making a move, you should call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Remember, you can see replays of the show on Barb's YouTube channel, Barb Schlinker, or you can listen to the podcast on all of the popular platforms like Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, many, many others. Thank you for listening this week. To reach out to Barb, that number again is 719-301-3900. Barb, you be safe. We will talk to you soon.
Well, thank you. Have a great weekend.